afternoon, everybody. My name is Ranger Winter, and on behalf of LOCA, the fabulous art organization, and Crystal Cove State Park, I'm delighted to be here to join you and share just a few fun facts about sharks. And afterwards, Liz is going to do an amazing art project and teach you how to draw sharks. People are really scared of sharks. Who can tell me one reason why people are scared of sharks? Winston, what's one reason? Because sharks have big teeth? Yeah, some sharks have some little sharks don't have big teeth, but you're right, big sharks have big teeth and they look kind of mean, right? Yeah, I understand that. What else, Johnny? You had another reason?
They can eat you.
Oh, okay, well, okay, who is on top of the food chain? Does anybody know who is on top of the food chain? We, humans, are on top of the food chain, and that means there is nothing, thankfully, that depends on humans in order to survive. Johnny, I will say very, very rarely, and only very occasionally, is there a shark attack when a shark bites a human. Sharks don't want to eat humans. We don't taste very good to them. Occasionally a shark makes a mistake, but that is not something that commonly happens. So we've dispelled that myth, haven't we? So sharks aren't scary for eating us because they don't eat us. But today I just want to talk about some of the sharks that we might find around here, and I want to share with you some fun facts about them. So there are over maybe not over, but at least 500 species of sharks. The smallest shark is about as big as my hand. And the biggest shark, well, does anybody know what it's not just the biggest shark, it's the biggest fish in the sea. Do you know what it is? The whale shark. And you know how big that can get? I don't have something to stretch out here, but that can get up to about 40 feet. So that's longer than a school bus. So I suspect if I was swimming around in the ocean and I saw a whale shark, that might scare me. Not the least bit interested in us. So today I brought one of the sharks that we find right here at Crystal Cove State Park. In fact, this shark washed ashore at Crystal Cove, and unfortunately when she washed ashore, she was no longer alive. And so as a state park ranger, I was able to take it, and we took it to a place called a taxidermist where they stuffed it and made it look real. Now you wouldn't find a shark on the shore at Crystal Cove State Park and pick it up and take it and stuff it for something what do you call stuffed animal at home, but as an educational facility we're allowed to do that. So does anybody want to guess what type of shark this is? And the giveaway are the spots. Do you know who it is?
I do.
Oh, this is not a great white shark. Oh, whoa. It is not a tiger shark either, Johnny. This is actually, but I understand why you said that, because of these spots, right? This is actually a leopard shark. And it does look kind of like a tiger, and tigers and leopards are cousins, right? But this is a leopard shark. These sharks can get up to about 7 feet, and this is one of the really important things. Where do you think its mouth is? Where do you think the leopard shark's mouth is? It's right down here, right? It's right below. So they feed on small organisms that are under the mud, the wet sand in the ocean. So they swim around and they take their mouths and they eat all sorts of little things. Definitely don't eat humans. So leopard sharks get up to about 7 feet. This one is about 4 feet. Now, one of the things you also mentioned, Winston mentioned, was their teeth. So sharks do have lots and lots of teeth. How many teeth do we have in our mouths? Does anybody know? How many teeth are we born with?
About like 36 or 27.
Well, you're close. When we start out as babies, we actually have teeth. Believe it or not, they're there. Do you know how many?
20?
We do. We have 20 teeth. We lose them all, and then as adults, we end up with, does anybody want to take a guess? You were pretty close over there. We end up with 32 teeth. A shark can actually have, some of them may end up having up to 30,000 teeth in a lifetime. Now, that's not normal. But what happens is our teeth are stuck in our mouths. Everybody, take your tongue. Can you move your teeth around? They're rooted really tightly in there. Sharks have very flexible teeth. They're not stuck in their jaws, they're in their gums, and they're real wiggly. You know, remember how when you've had, actually probably all of you are missing a tooth right now. How many of you are missing teeth right now? Nobody? Just a couple of you. Okay, but do you know what it's like when you can wiggle your teeth around, right?
I lost my back molar.
Oh, okay, so you're missing a tooth. Well, with sharks, if they lose a tooth, that's no big deal because another one's just going to move on up. It's kind of like they have a conveyor belt. It's a little thing that goes zzz, like that. And if a tooth gets knocked out or they bite into something and it gets stuck, no big deal. Zip, because another one's just going to move on up. So this one, I'm not sure how, what species of shark this is, but I like to show it to you because you can see the rows of teeth. So that tooth gets knocked out, no big deal, there's another one right behind it. That one gets knocked out, no big deal, there's another one right behind it. So some teeth, some sharks could have 3,000 teeth in their mouth at one time. And as I say, not many sharks are going to have 20 to 30,000 teeth in a lifetime. But it's certainly possible. You can see all those rows of teeth. Can you see over there? Okay. So there are different kinds of teeth too. They've got teeth that look like triangles, which are for ripping apart their prey, because most sharks, if not all sharks, I think actually all sharks, no, that's not true. Most sharks are carnivores. Does anybody know what a carnivore eats? What's a carnivore eat?
Meat.
Carnivores are meat eaters. I do believe there's at least one vegetarian shark, not one that we have around here. So those big triangle teeth are going to help them to rip apart their food. And then they have the other teeth for grabbing, maybe subduing. Some of the teeth may not even have much of a purpose at all, but they have 4 different types of teeth. Now, what I forgot to mention, this is probably the most important fact about a shark, this is the skeleton of a bony fish. And more than 90% of all fish that live in the ocean have a bony skeleton, just like we do. They are vertebrates. Everybody touch your backbone. Hold on to your questions, I'll get to those, okay? So we have a backbone, that's what makes us vertebrates. But sharks, they're the other 10% of the fish in the sea, and their cousins, stingrays, they don't have a skeleton made of a bone. They have a made of cartilage, so they're called cartilaginous fish. Can you all say that? Cartilaginous. Ooh, that's a tough word, isn't it? Cartilaginous fish. Try saying it 3 times really fast. Cartilaginous, cartilaginous, cartilaginous. All right, you did pretty well. So everybody touch the tips of your nose. Touch your tips of your nose. Touch your earlobes. And if you're wearing shorts, you can even touch underneath your knees. That is cartilage. So we have cartilage as well, but we have a bony skeleton. Sharks, they've got no bones. They just have cartilage, and just like the tips of our nose, it's much more flexible. So they have a very flexible body. So one of the other things we hear about sharks is that they have to constantly swim. Have any of you ever heard that before? So unlike bony fish have what's called a gas-filled bladder, and they can take that bladder and they can move up and down in the water column. Sharks don't have that. So if sharks don't continue to swim, what do you think might happen to them? They may sink. So because of that, sharks are always swimming, and some of them can actually lay on the sandy bottom. Some of them actually, as we already learned with the leopard shark, get their food from the bottom, from underneath the sand and the mud. And so they have to move, or they can lie down. But unlike other sharks, they can go up and down throughout the water column. Now, another very interesting thing about sharks, let's see, I brought this. This is a skin of a leopard shark as well, and this is one that shows you, I'm going to come around so you can see this, and in fact, if you want to take one finger and touch it, you'll see for yourself. So very gently touch this, going, let's see, if I put it top head first, if you go one direction, it's very soft and smooth. If you go the other direction, it has lots of tiny teeth. They're called denticles. So try one hand that way, and on the other hand side, you got to be really careful. And think of a good adjective or describing word of what it feels like when you touch the skin of the shark. Because it feels different on both sides, don't you think? It does, Johnny. Give me a good adjective. Can you think of one? Whoa.
It's rough and has like little tiny
Teeth.
Velcro.
Oh, it feels like Velcro. Okay, that's interesting. You're absolutely right. It's rough on one side. That side's kind of, the first side was smooth, don't you think?
It's like scaly.
Scaly, yep, but they're not scales, they're teeth. Rough is good, but it does feel scaly, I agree with you.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
No, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But what do you think it feels like?
It doesn't feel that bad.
Doesn't feel that.
Kind of reminds me of like the top of a skateboard.
A top of a skate, that's an excellent observation.
Yeah.
What do you think it feels like? You got a good adjective? No? How about you?
It feels actually the same.
Oh, to you it feels the same? Oh, as a skateboard, I really like that. Okay, now I've got some sandpaper here because this just goes to show how, you know, hundreds of years ago when the Ahashiman, this is their tribal land, the Ahashiman, when the Ahashiman, the indigenous people of this area, they're still living here, but then when they were living on this land and they were finding the resource of the land in order to survive. So they used shark skin for sandpaper. So let me try somebody. Give me your arm, somebody. Put your arm out. Oh, but you gotta have an arm that I can scratch. All right, let's see, Stella. Would that work? Did that feel like shark skin to you?
No.
Oh, come on, Stella. You gotta be, you know, this has scratched a lot of arms, so maybe it doesn't feel that way anymore. What do you think? Oh, come on.
Nothing.
Oh,
It feels soft.
it does not. Now you're all messing with me. I bet I can scratch some mom's arm and she'll say, "Oh yeah." Absolutely. I had to try and make sure.
Feels exactly like a shark.
Exactly like a shark. So the last thing I want to share with you, it's really important to know that sharks are very, very sensitive. They have great use of all of their senses. So for example, all around their face here, they have these little electrical pulses. It's a big word called an ampullae of Lorenzoni. And all around their face and their snout are these little electrical pulses, which helps them to sense their food. They also have what's called a lateral line right here, and every time the water column moves, they can feel, they can sense what's going on around them, and they can even feel their prey. I know it sounds kind of strange, but whereas we can see, we can walk into a grocery store and we can say, oh, that's what I want to eat today, this lateral line and these little electrical pulses is what actually helps them to find their food. They also have amazing sight, and unlike us, we have, how many eyelids? If you close your eyes, does anybody know how many eyelids we have? Well, we have one on top and we actually have one on the bottom. They actually have 3 eyelids. One of them actually completely helps to protect the eye. So that's another sort of interesting fact about them. And the last thing I want to share is one of my favorite fun facts about sharks. And that is that some sharks lay eggs, and here are 2 different types of egg sacs. So these look sort of like seaweed, don't you think? This one is for an egg sac for a horn shark. This is an egg sac for a swell shark, both sharks that we see right here in Laguna Beach, right at Crystal Cove State Park. And what'll happen, the mom lays the egg and they float around. They often get stuck in seaweed, and then that's it. The mama swims away, she's done her job. These egg sacs get stuck in the seaweed and they'll stay there until the baby shark is so big that it stretches itself out. It'll start to tap its way out and then eventually swim away. Now, a really cool thing is if you go to an aquarium, oftentimes at aquariums you'll see these strung up, especially these ones. They'll string them up and then they'll put a light behind it so you can actually see the baby developing inside. That's a really cool thing to see. So Swell shark, this one's actually, people call it a mermaid's purse. And then this one is from the horn shark.
They're very common.
Oh, you see these a lot?
No, well, they're very common, but I've never seen them.
Oh, okay, got it. And then the final thing I want to share with you is that not all sharks lay eggs. Some give live birth. And I know that this looks real, and it is real, it's just no longer alive. When we took this shark to the taxidermist and they opened her up to stuff her, they realized that she was pregnant and she had babies, but the babies didn't survive either. So I put one in a jar of, this is alcohol, which serves as a preservative so that this doesn't just disintegrate. So I don't want you to get grossed out. I think this is personally really cool. But I'm gonna walk around and I'm gonna show you, give you a good look at the baby shark. It looks just like the mama shark, don't you think?
You're right.
Yeah.
How long does it take before the sharks usually come out of the sack?
Oh, that's a great question. It is the same gestation period as a human. Those sharks both are in those little egg sacs for about 9 months. Crazy. And you know what happens though? They've got lots of predators out there. So once those little sharks come out of that sack, I bet there's a lot of hungry animals waiting for them. But you know, that's the circle of life. That's the food chain. And every...
Is it one per sack?
Yes. Yes. Pretty cool, don't you think?
And for the ones that give live birth,
Yes.
is it just one baby?
There were, I think this one had 7.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know what the ultimate amount is. And again, this is a leopard shark. I mean, you know, larger sharks probably only have 1, but like gray whales. In fact, I was teaching about whales earlier today, and the largest animals in the world, they're gonna have just 1 baby. Can you imagine? That mama gray whale has a 1,500-pound baby. I think 1 is probably sufficient. Okay, so do we have any questions? Do we have any questions I could answer you before Liz she's ready. I can see her back there. She is ready to start teaching you how to draw sharks. But if you have any questions.
Are there sacks like real? Like, are they able to hatch?
There's nothing in them. Yes, they may have been, there was something in here at one time, but either the babies hatched or I probably got this from an aquarium where they actually have horn sharks and horn sharks and swell sharks in their collection, and so they probably found these in the tanks. Any other questions? All right, everybody. Well, thank you. Enjoy your art lesson, and hope to see you at Crystal Cove State Park.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth McGhee, and today we're going to be doing a tinfoil shark. For this project, you'll need a pencil and paper for sketching. You'll need a pen and markers for coloring, and then you will need a piece of cardboard, cut to whatever size you want. This is 6 by 6 inches, and then a piece of tinfoil that is bigger than your cardboard. And I'm gonna be using a brush to emboss. I'm not gonna be using the bristles, I'm gonna be using the back of the brush. And so the tinfoil has 2 different sides. One side is very shiny and one side is not so very shiny. And we're gonna start with the not so very shiny one first. So I got my cardboard and I'm gonna be putting it underneath the tinfoil. And we're gonna wrap the tinfoil around the cardboard, smoothing it out so there won't be any wrinkles. And at this stage, we don't have to be too careful about touching the tinfoil. We'll have to be more careful about that later. And once we have it nice and wrapped, just like that, we're gonna set it aside because now we're going to practice drawing our shark before we work on the actual tinfoil. So let's get out our pencil and paper. So we're gonna start with the shark's back. And it's just like a nice little arch like that. So it's very similar to starting a drawing of a fish. And here is its underbelly. And now we're going to start the tail. So nice straight line for that tail. And for the bottom tail, I think I'm going to start with a little line like that and another little line like that. And just think of it as if you're drawing little triangles for the fin and connect it like that. And don't worry about making it perfect. Every shark, or whale for that matter, has a different tail. And now we're going to work on the fin. So we're going to do an angle and a little curl, just like that. And with that extra line there, we're just going to erase that. Now we're going to draw a line from the nose of the shark to there, and then to the tail. That's going to be the underbelly of the shark. And you can also add his top fin, very similar to the bottom fin. And then another little fin right here. And his eye is going to line up right with that line that we put right there. Now we can give him some gills. And now we can even give him a mouth if we want. So that's the basic drawing of the shark, and that's what we're going to be putting on here. So wherever you want your shark to be, he can be on the top, the sides, wherever you want. And I'm pressing with the back of my brush pretty hard. So I'm just following the same steps that we did when we were practicing with the pencil. So since we can't use an eraser on the tin foil, we can just smooth out that line and it will just make it disappear. And we'll just add in those fins. And we'll add the eye and the gills and the mouth. And at this stage we can draw other things around our shark. So you can draw the bottom of the ocean. And maybe I'll draw some coral. And some seaweed. And maybe we'll add some bubbles. And the more you do at this stage, the easier it'll be to color. I'll even add in a school of fish. And now that we're at this stage, we're going to do the delicate process of taking it off the cardboard. Flatten it out a little bit. And this is the part you want to be careful not to touch the surface because you have oil in your skin and the fingerprints will make the marker not want to stick. So we're going to try and line it back up with the cardboard. So now you can see that our image has flipped. So now our shark is facing the other way. So maybe I'll start with the ocean. So I'll just pick the blue marker. So I'm just going to stay away from where the ridges of the tin foil are and just color in between them. If you color in one direction, it'll make it look neater, but you don't have to. So just being careful to pick around the shark and the fish. And by pressing with the marker, that's going to help flatten out the tin foil as you go. And the ocean will be the biggest area that you'll be coloring. And you can have whatever color shark you want. I think I'm going to be going with a gray color, so it'll look pretty subtle on mine. since the tinfoil is already kind of silver. Maybe I'll do some orange fish. And again, I'm just staying in between those two lines. Maybe some purple coral. Some green seaweed. And maybe have the bottom of the ocean be yellow. And fill in the center of those bubbles. And at this stage, we're starting to see the picture come together, but it's still not very clear. So that's why we have a black pen. I like to stay in between the two edges of the raised part, but you can do the outside or the inside, whichever you prefer. And don't forget the bubbles and the sand. And there we have a nice little shark in relief. And relief is what they call when it has the raised surface like that for the lines. So have fun making as many ocean scenes as you'd like. And here we have our shark.